This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with you and me.
Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you're updated each time fresh content comes out. And thank you for being part of the Zach Rateliff Show.
The Zach Rateliff Show is sponsored by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Exceed Health Clinic, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. Hello and welcome to the Zach Rateliff Show. I'm Zach. This is my good friend Dale.
Hey guys.
All right, Dale. We it's been a little bit now. You've been busy.
Well, yeah. Usually we do this every week, and last week I got into campaigning so much, and I know you were busy, and it was like it come up Thursday. It's like, oh man, I forgot about Zach on Wednesday. And you go, I was busy all day, making a living.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
We tried to do it on Friday, but your voice went out.
My voice didn't work, which is important in this job.
Absolutely. So we said, oh, you know what? We'll just do it on Monday.
Yeah. Well, hey, I was telling you, and that's why we just went ahead and I was looking through the numbers. We're in close to 20 different countries now, and 33 states. So we're all over the country. And I was like, what are these people in other countries? Because I look at Ukraine, Russia, a lot of Europe, really. 20 countries. There's a lot of them from everywhere. Some South American countries. I'm like, what are they listening to? Pretty a notable percentage out of Canada. And you had an interesting take on this.
Well, no matter what country you're in, be it Russia, Ukraine, South America, somewhere, or even Canada, people want to be free. People. That's our natural disposition is freedom.
Right.
Apparently, the other side of us, natural disposition, is to dominate and subjugate people.
Yeah.
But people everywhere, there's lots of people who want to be free. They want to live their lives.
Right.
They want to be, left alone by governments. They just want to take care of their families, worship their God, and be free. And they look to people like you and voices out there that they can listen to and cling to and see that there's something else out there other than what their life is like. I mean, Canada has gone full, I don't even know how to describe it anymore.
Well, and they're Alberta's having a referendum vote?
Yeah.
When is that? October, I think.
I think so.
They're going to vote. It looks like they're leaving Canada.
They're saying they want to leave Canada.
Which, conservative Canadians, maybe a centrist American, I don't know. So I'm not going to jump on the make them a state bandwagon or anything, but. Well,
there are plenty out there. There are people up in Canada said we'd be better off in the United States than we are in Canada. And, you've got, they're talking about letting doctors suicide your kids without parental, not that would make any difference to me, but without even telling the parents.
It's a sick world.
It is. And how far Canada fell is just amazing. So does it surprise me that they're listening to the Zach Rateliff Show in Canada? No, it doesn't. Because people want to hear how other people are, how they're dealing with their problems. Yeah, we talk about, the Democrats and the Republicans and, conservatives and liberals. But we have that discussion. We have that fight. They don't have that fight.
Right.
They don't have that debate.
No, they can't. They shut them down.
They do, and they punish them. If you're not following the party line or the government line, you're done.
So I want to bring up, and I didn't have this in my notes for today, but just you know how we do.
Yeah, rabbit hole.
You remember a few years ago when the Democrats were a big push for free and fair internet, and even then I'm like, what are they trying to do? But then you have the Elon Musk takeover of Twitter, which is now X. You have, which, side note, go follow me on there. But you have at Zach Rateliff POD.
It's worth your while.
Yeah, that's right. But you have freedom because through the internet, and that's how these other countries can hear about freedom. That's how all these states are listening. You know, I think we just passed 60,000 views on YouTube. I mean, and plus the other stuff that we have, and while that's not a lot compared to some, that's a lot to me.
Yeah, well, it's your voice. You're just Zach Rateliff here in Texarkana, man.
That's right.
But you're out here and you're talking, little issues and you're talking big issues.
Yeah,
and that keeps that spark in those people alive.
But think about this. If we had a free and fair internet like the government wanted, where they could rein you in and tell you what you could watch, and everybody only got so much airtime, and this isn't possible. And so, thank God for all of you that listen. Thank God for this show, and thank God for our country. It's our job, Dale, to talk about all these big and little things to keep our country, to get back to God. Because, that's the problem. Just like in Canada, or the farther you get away from Jesus, the worse things get. And you can see that all around the world.
Absolutely. And, our country, such as it is, we're a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
For now.
But that's the very foundation of our country. There's no other countries out there like that.
No.
The government is the be all end all. Here it's not. We have the opportunity. We're doing that opportunity right now, electing our leadership.
Yeah.
We're trying to say, we think this person thinks like we do. We don't think he's a bad guy or a bad woman, and we're going to vote for them and make that change. If they prove us wrong, we'll vote them out the next time.
That's exactly. Well, and I was even reading, I don't know where, probably somewhere on the internet. I was trying to source it, but I can't tell you. So you can take this as make believe if you want to. But the story said that basically when our Constitution came out, we were kind of looked at as a joke internationally. Like, what, you're going to have a Constitution? And, because wasn't people might have had one, but to follow it and to honor it and that wasn't the way government worked at that point.
I kind of feel that. I mean, that's not a story. That's how it was.
Right.
We were looked at as a joke. It could never happen. You need a king.
Right.
Even some people in our country said, we got to have a king. George Washington, be our king.
Right.
And he's like, no. But as a founding Tea Party guy, way back there when Santelli did his rant, said, America needs a new Tea Party, I was on board with that.
Yeah.
And when we first started getting out and going to our county parties and getting into elections stuff, I remember as a Republican, they would laugh at me.
Yeah.
And they go, you're a Tea Party guy. You don't know how it works. They're kind of right at the time. We didn't know how it works, but we knew what we wanted.
Right.
And we knew where we wanted to go. Right now, the Tea Party influence, even though the Tea Parties have basically gone away, they didn't really go away.
Right.
They became other things. They became patriot groups. They became Republican party groups.
Mm-hmm.
Many county parties, not here, but many county parties are now run by people who used to be Tea Party guys.
Well, that's interesting. We were going to do this at the end, but we'll do some of the national stuff at the end because I enjoy that as much as I do local. I'm seeing in my race and in your, well, not so much your race, but I'm definitely seeing in my race establishment people come out and back the person who I'm. And I'm like, this just proves my point. If you want more establishment, definitely that's who you should vote for. If you want to do it different, if you want to grow the party, if you want to move forward, if you want to think outside the box, if you don't just want cookie cutter republicanism, then I'm the only vote that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing good in my campaign.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're on a good trajectory.
Yeah.
But you don't know until the votes are counted.
You don't know.
But it's one of those things where I've actually had a couple precinct chairs just a couple, said, "Well, if you win, I'm resigning my precinct chair." I'm like, "Well, I'm not asking for that.
Yeah, why would you do that?
I'm asking for us to reorganize and do better." But
It's not an all or nothing game or a zero-sum game.
But if you say you can't tolerate any change, if you can't tolerate anything other than the status quo, then maybe you should.
When you have, somebody told me this that was at our New Boston event that we did, 2 weeks ago, maybe. It's all running together.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is for you because I don't go to near as much stuff as you do. I don't live in the lap of luxury. No.
Yeah, right. You can have. I'm so glad that this is the last week of early voting. My God.
I know it's all over next Tuesday, but then the work starts. Hopefully for me and you.
Well, that's the thing, because I lay in bed at night thinking about all the stuff I have to do. I have to, I want new bylaws. I want to reorganize. I want to see what's everything. There's so much work to do, and then I'm thinking can't really waste any time thinking about that or doing any of that until I win the election.
That's right.
Because once I win the election, that's when the real work starts. But until I can cross that line,
it's all theoretical.
Yeah, it's all theoretical. And then it'll have to be, if I don't win, I have to go figure out some other way to go do it. Yeah. But do it, I will.
Yeah, no. Well, you've shown that. But, that's my thing is that if you're not a conservative and you're not all the things and you don't hold, some of the same values, just go ahead and call yourself a Democrat.
You know what? It's not even that. That's an easy argument to make, and it's one that's made quite a lot. But sometimes it's not even that. It's people get comfortable in what they do or don't do. And they go, I only got one job, and I'm just going to do that. And as long as the results are in my favor, I'll put in only as much work as I need to get there and claim credit for it. It's so much more than that. And you know that. I know that. But it's not, do I believe my opponent believes in many, many, many of the same things I do? Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely. When it comes down to core values and such, probably. Where we differ is in tactics and strategy.
Right.
And looking over the horizon and seeing what can be. I mean, 10 years ago, would you think Canada was where it is now?
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
Or Texas with all these mosques?
Or 1,200 people a year in the Great Britain are being put in prison because they wrote a meme?
Right.
My goodness. It's happening everywhere, and it's getting crazy.
Well, it's a slow. We stopped recording because last time that happened, you got an endorsement from the vice chair of the Republican Party, so I didn't know who was calling.
Right. Well, I've been getting a lot of calls in here recently about voting and who to vote for and who not to vote for and all that stuff. So. And usually I talk to them and we talk it through and say, well, here's what I think and what do you think? And we let it go at that. I apologize for not turning my phone off before I sat down here. No, I just forgot.
This is not, it's not a big deal to me.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. So anyway, you're running for chairman of the Republican Party in Bowie County of Texas. I'm running for precinct chair of 11A in Bowie County for the Republicans. And look, we have a chance to make a difference here.
We do.
Even if we both lose, which is not my plan and it's not your plan, we're still making a difference by talking about things that they didn't want to talk about.
Right. I mean,
and guess what? We're going to keep talking about them if we do win and if we don't.
That's right. And if you're called to serve and if you want, I know that you care and love your daughter very deeply, and you want a better America, a better Texas, a better Bowie County for her to grow up in,
absolutely,
and thrive in, and that's what we all want. And we just have different ways to get there. Me and you, we take a more active part. You're doing a podcast, It seems like everybody and their brother and sister are doing a podcast.
Yeah,
these
everybody's
days,
got a podcast,
but they're not. It's very few people who are out there, and people like you are out there trying to make a difference. I have a radio show.
Yeah.
Less Austin, more Texas.
Less Austin, more Texas.
On Spotify.com. Anyway, but it's one of those things where we're out there trying to make a difference with our experience, our knowledge, our involvement and engagement in things that are going on. That's what it's there for. So, I mean, when it gets down to it, there's some people who look at, a position as leadership. Mm-hmm. Leadership is not a position.
No.
It's an action. You have to be out there working.
You always hear about these leadership classes and leadership books. And look, I've read, I don't know, I want to say hundreds, but over 100. People often conflate the two, and there's a difference. Hundreds would be over 200.
Right.
and I'm not going to claim that. But, many, many leadership books, and I've been through many, many leadership classes. And all. But the one thing stands true out of all this: they can help you refine what you're naturally born to do.
Right.
But you can't make somebody a leader. You can't make somebody stand up and feel comfortable in front of 2 people, 200, 2,000, however many. That's not something you just have. Now, you can learn to feel better about it. So leadership is something that's ingrained in some people, and that's okay, because that's the way it's supposed to be. And oftentimes those people don't stand up.
Right.
Oftentimes you'll just notice them at your widget factory making widgets. They come up with a better day, and they're kind of, but they just lead the way, and then people follow.
And not all leaders are out there standing in front of a podium and
that's right.
Telling people. Sometimes it's the guy at the back of the table who, when he speaks, everybody looks at him, do the E.F. Hutton. What?
Yeah.
What'd you say? And they speak, and people go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what we ought to do.
Yeah.
That's a leader, too. It's different styles.
My grandfather had a deep voice, and he's a big guy, and he was tall and a big guy, and just, of course, Grandpa, so he's almost myth-like status in my mind, right? So I can acknowledge that. But the truth is, he could walk into a room, and just by force of nature, everybody wanted to see what he had to say, and he didn't always have a lot to say. He generally was the guy sitting in the back. But when he spoke, now he might. There's a chance he's going to be giving you a hard time. But there was something in there that people paid attention to. He didn't ask to be the leader. He didn't ask to run anything. It just kind of the way it happened.
Yeah.
And so that's anyway. That's what we're saying with this race. I'm praying that yours goes well. I'm praying that mine goes well. And when you win, I'm praying that these precinct chairs don't quit, because that's what's happened multiple times with multiple precinct chairs. They get mad about something and throw their hands up and walk out. Well, that doesn't help anything. We're not. I can't stand a quitter. I mean, if you quit smoking, I'm going to question why you're a quitter. No, but it's a bad deal, and so I don't understand why people would have that mentality. Well, if he wins, I'm out. No, we want to unify the party. But we want it to be strong. We want to, for me, I know. Jesus, my daughter, be a good son, politics, and in that order.
Well, that's interesting you say that, and you use the word unity. And when I was at church just yesterday, First Baptist Church in DeKalb, that was the message where the pastor was talking about unity. And he goes, unity isn't something that you're given. It's not something that is made. It's a choice. Unity is a choice. And if you can agree on the basic foundation of what it is that you believe in, what they believe in, you can, and it's on you to find a way to unify to that.
Right.
And it may be a question of tactics. It may be a question of strategy, and it may not be what you think should be done. It may be what the other guy, but at least if you follow along and say, okay, let's give this a chance to see if it works. Will it make our lives better? Will we build the party up? And to me, the goal is not building the party, it's building the people in the party with the knowledge and the understanding, and making sure that we're all agreeing to the common values that we should be.
Well, and that's my problem with the party. And as we kind of transition to some national stuff, my problem with the party is I'm not for the party. I'm for the people.
Right.
if the Republican Party goes the wrong way, I will leave the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I don't care what you call us.
Right.
I'm for freedom. And that's it. And then, so when you look at like, this is going to be a transition here, but if you look at your Mitch McConnell's and what's going on in Washington, D.C., oh, we don't want this because we're mad. They're not for the people. It doesn't matter. And then half those guys don't believe what we believe anyway. They just call themselves, or even in Austin, right? Oh, we're going to run as a Republican, but then we're not going to support the Republican Party of Texas values that all the citizens vote on.
Right.
I mean, that's what we see time and time again. So I'm not for the party.
Right.
I want to be a part of a party that represents my values. Currently, the Republican Party of Texas claims to represent my values closer than the Democrats do.
Absolutely.
However,
by a long shot.
Yeah, by a long shot. However, in the event that they don't, I will leave because that's the way it works. We don't have to be beholden to a party overlord.
Well, listen, when I first got involved in 2009 with the Tea Party, there was lots of talk in the Tea Party circles. Hey, we need to do our own political party.
Yeah.
Let's we don't trust the Republicans. We don't believe what the Democrats believe. Let's form our own party and let's go for it. And we'll do great things for Texas and all that. And it's
tough.
like, but other heads prevailed, and I was one of them. I'm like, we have the infrastructure.
Right.
Republicans on paper believe pretty much what we believe.
Yes.
Even the libertarians, in many cases, believe what we believe.
The biggest insult that I've gotten from this election is someone goes, "This guy's a Republican, he's a libertarian." I'm like, "Oh, you got me."
A lot of people used to call themselves constitutional libertarians back in the day, or
Right.
constitutional conservatives, rather than a Republican. But I saw, like many others saw, that the Republican Party was the only way to achieve power as quick as possible to try to stem the tide of what was happening.
Right.
Get back in line with the values and the principles that we believe in. So we worked at that. Yeah, we didn't know nothing when we first started, but we learned. We stayed engaged. Here it is, 2026 now.
Yeah.
And I've worked in the legislature now.
Yeah.
And it's like, we learned a lot.
Yes.
But the values and the principles have always stayed the same.
Well, and that's why I'm still part of the party. And that's why I want to be in the leadership of our county party so that we can keep it and we can grow it and we can represent the people and the values. And so we can keep Bowie County and so we can keep Texas. Let me tell you, I've said this many times. If conservatism dies in Texas, it dies in our country.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's a fight for it. There's a fight for it in Bowie County. You and I can see it more than. And look, I understand. And I was talking to, maybe it was my dad over the weekend. We were working on a project, and he goes, yeah. Problem is, people your age aren't paying attention because taking little Johnny to soccer practice and you're doing all the things
right.
and you're working and you're in the grind. I said, that's exactly right. We just got to keep talking about it. We just got to let them know. And then they can't be afraid. I've got a pretty good group of friends that we'll ask questions but look, everybody's got soccer or basketball or softball or whatever, dance. And that's life. But if you want to keep that life, you got to be cognizant of what's going on around you.
Well, you've got to give people a foundation to stand on.
That's right.
And when you're out there at your soccer game and somebody mentions something that says, "Oh, so-and-so is going to have an abortion," if you take 10 seconds and go, "Well, that's not right," please consider another alternative, because
that's not necessarily the group of friends I'm in.
Well, I get that, but if you're a soccer mom or soccer dad, you're in with a bunch of different people, and that's just one thing. It could be open borders, it could be whatever. You just got to be able to say, "No, I believe in something different, and here's why." If the current chair was to get 100% people voting for ours, then the only reason they were voting for an R is because there was an R.
Right.
That's a failure.
Yeah.
If you know who you're voting for, why you're voting for, what they stand for, and what their record is, then you've done a good job.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. The reason people don't pay attention is because we haven't given them a reason to. That's not going to change. There's no energy. That's just a little club that they all hang out together and they don't get the word out. And so if you're at soccer or if you're at basketball or if you're at church and you don't want to talk about it, well, I don't care because nothing's going to change. I don't care because they don't listen to me. That's what your establishment people want, so they can just do what they want to do. Also, there's a reason why you don't raise money. There's a reason why nobody gives to you. There's a reason why nobody participates, because you're not actively seeking them out.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's
So
right.
I know we were going to talk about national issues.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But this has been an interesting conversation. I think it's one people need to hear, and especially in all those countries you mentioned. They need to hear that, guys. Hold the faith. Keep strong to your beliefs.
One of the best email chains I've got going is a guy out of a country where they're really shutting down on any speech, and if you speak out, like I said, they're arresting you and all these things. He's like, you got to keep fighting. You guys got to keep talking. And like, he reaches out to me, or I guess it's a he. I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, that's a big deal, because that, exactly like you said, they're like, hey, just keep talking about this, because if we lose America, it's over. If we lose Bowie County, if we lose Texas, this is a whole string of events that it's hard to be like, oh my gosh, that's all time. But when you have people from around the world reaching out to Zach in Texarkana saying, hey man, keep talking about it.
Well, and they should. However, I want to invoke for all those people in those repressive countries the Bongino rule, number one: don't get dead.
Yeah, don't die.
Do it smart. Do what you can, but don't. Keep yourself safe. Liberty is a movement. You don't help a movement if you're dead.
Nope.
So
right.
Just stay safe and remember these words and find like people. And it's tough. It's hard. It's scary.
That's right.
But
if you're ever in Texarkana on a Thursday, you can find us at Big Jake's.
That's right. We'll talk liberty all day long, baby. Liberty and barbecue.
That's right. All right, let's jump to one of these stories.
All right.
X.com, Eric Doherty, jaw-dropping betrayal exposed. The amount of Social Security numbers issued by Democrats to illegals doubled every year. 2021 is 270,000. 2022, 590,000. 2023, 946,000. 2024, 2 million. That's Social Security numbers to illegals. Without Doge, we would never know this.
It's one of those things where what is Social Security? It's supposed to be the safety net for Americans. It was.
Well, that's not fair. You're a racist.
Yeah, well, I'm an American, all right?
Okay.
That's not a race.
Oh,
American is not a race.
Because you don't have a culture.
It's a country. And I do have a culture. I grew up in a Southern American culture.
There you go.
Well, we might have different aspects of the same culture. I grew up with civics. I grew up with American history. I was taught Florida history, because I wasn't blessed to come to school in Texas at a young age. And it was one of those things but we all had that. When I go overseas, and I've gone overseas a lot in my life, we were always Americans. We weren't, anything else but. You weren't an African American over there. Right. You weren't a Texas American or a Florida American. You were just an American, and that meant something.
Well, bringing all these illegals in, they're not all Mexicans, but
no, not at all.
They're Chinese, they're Iranians, they're wherever they can recruit them from. It's not good for us. Even from let's say that they're safe and they want to work hard and blah 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 blah. There are 2 million illegals housed in Texas. So out of 36 million, that's 2 million that you have to have a house for, that drives your rent up. That, probably driving a car uninsured, your insurance rates go up. Everything's more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
For having that many. I mean, even just from an economic standpoint, when you get past the terrorists and the cartels and all that, just economics, it makes it worse for us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at schools. They always say, we got to have more money. We need more money. Well, how many illegals are we teaching in our public schools at $12,000 a pop?
What's that town that they made down there out of Houston?
Colony Ridge?
Colony Ridge. I
Yes.
mean, has broken their school district.
Oh, it did. There are so many people flooded in so fast that even with the state money, they can't keep up.
Yeah.
And that goes back to another Supreme Court decision, Plyler v. Doe, where the Supreme Court even said there's no constitutional mandate to give a public education to an illegal alien.
Right.
However, they rationalized it because this was a liberal court back then. They said it is America's best interest that they do get a public education for when they become citizens. And it's like the thought was all these illegals, and we didn't have near the problem back then that we do now. Right. They would all eventually become citizens.
Which is terrifying.
It was, and they also said that that the court could reconsider that decision later if it became a threat to our culture or to our economy. I say we're there.
Well, once again, Rome didn't fall because the world became Roman. Rome fell because Rome became the world.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the intended goal for all of you that want to call me conspiracy theorists. That's the intended goal is to wash us down, so because no one assimilates anymore.
Now you're getting right to the threat of Islamification of America.
You want to go there? Okay.
Yeah, okay. I do. I mean, we're seeing that is becoming one of the major number one issues here in Texas.
Let's see. This is from Right Angle News Network. After it was revealed 50 mosques have opened in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the last, this is Dallas-Fort, not even all of Texas, just DFW, 50 mosques in the last 24 months. A woman has uncovered that Texas Governor Greg Abbott's largest donor is a Muslim Pakistani who gave him more than $14 million, including $2 million in the last year alone, and we wonder why the Islamification of Texas is happening.
Oh, I don't wonder one little bit. I mean, for number one is they claim protections under our Constitution, First Amendment, freedom of religion. Let me get this out of the way right now before we start. Islam is not a religion. It is a system of governance that has the trappings of religion.
Right.
Because they want to control every aspect of your life. They want government to be Islamic. They want you to be Iran eventually, or Saudi Arabia, or any other government out there like that uses Islam as their basis of government. Go ahead.
Let me say this, because my family, we do have a good family friend who is Muslim. However, everything about this guy, and I've known him since I was a teenager, right? Everything about him, he works hard. He very much has assimilated. He's part of our culture. His faith is different, but he likes our government. He likes our, so this isn't who I'm talking about. This isn't who we're talking about. I would say, is the outsider to what they're trying to do. But he and his family are successful. They do good things. They're business people. They've been in a few large corporations in this country that I know of. I mean, well-educated, good guy. So I don't want you to think that we're just talking about everyone, but he's not calling for the Islamification of our government either.
You're right. I mean, look at the Christian, religion. We're not all Christians one block.
Right.
We're Baptists, Catholics, Presbyterians, Methodists. Well, maybe. But but that church even split because of the schism in there over the gender ideology and all that stuff. Yeah. There's many, many, many different types of Christians out there with various beliefs and interpretations of the Bible. Same with the Islamic cultures. You have the Sunnis and the Shiites and the Wasabis or whatever the heck they are.
Yeah.
And they're all different. But at the core of each of those Islamic factions or whatever, there are moderates, but they're also the hardcore guys. Listen.
And the hardcore guys believe they're to take over the world.
Yes. And they there's nothing they cannot justify in getting there.
Well, and according to their own religious text, they're allowed to lie to the infidel. They're allowed to steal from the infidel. They're allowed to enslave the infidel. They're allowed to rape the infidel. They're allowed whatever it takes to get you to convert.
Yeah. Well, you can be a Muslim in America under the protection of the Constitution and our government from the radicals in Islam.
That's right.
So so we give them the freedom to be moderate.
Right.
Now, if America was an Islamic state, it would be different. It would be one of those things where the Muslim moderate would be exterminated pretty quick.
Oh, absolutely. Go over to any I was going to say Middle East, but you can even go into the African Muslim countries. Go over there and tell them you're gay.
Yeah.
Go be gay or go be a transgender.
Toss you off a building.
And then if that doesn't kill you, they're going to throw rocks at you till you die.
Right.
Because they can't afford, other things a lot of times. But I mean, that's reality. They're going to cut your head off. They're going to behead you, just like the guy did in the subway to that white lady, right?
Right.
The Muslim guy just cuts her throat.
Yeah.
Or the family in was it British Columbia? Is either British Columbia or the Netherlands. They had moved there when their daughter was a baby. She became westernized.
Right.
Dad and brother didn't like it, so they went out and killed her.
Oh, yeah.
Honor killing.
Honor killings are a big thing there. We talk about that now. Like I said, it's a big issue here in Texas. It's a big issue across the nation nowadays. And people are trying to wrap their hands around how do we stop that from happening here while still being under the Constitution. So I think you have to define what Islam truly is in order to combat it. Now, people say, well, so what? Let them be what they want to do. Have you looked at
conversation with somebody in my neighborhood?
Have you looked at Europe, France? I mean, even the UK, they call it Londistan for a reason nowadays.
Yes, they do.
And they are just taking over. They are imposing Sharia wherever they go, because once they get to a certain percentage of the population, they become much, much more aggressive and radical.
New York, they're having call for prayers played. They're flooding the streets with the.
I hear they want to eliminate dogs as pets in New York because it offends the Muslim community.
I bet they'd let you have a goat.
That's a different show. No, I mean, and
I shouldn't have. My filter just didn't kick in.
Yeah, I hear that. But I'm seeing memes on Instagram and such, where, now you got memes that's like, I'd rather have a country that would protect a dog than have a country that had Muslims in charge that got rid of them.
It's just a wild transformation. Now, compare what's happening in Europe to what's happening in Japan with this issue. Have you been paying attention to that?
Yeah.
So, no Muslim graveyards. You're not allowed to be Muslim.
Right.
No mosque. Like, you can't build one because they're protecting their culture.
Yes, they are.
They're not saying if you're a Muslim you can't come here. They're just saying if you're a Muslim, you better keep it to yourself.
And Japanese, by and large, are not Christians.
Right.
No. So it's not, Christians against the Muslims like the Crusades.
No.
They recognize the threat of Islamification to their own country. Even the USSR is looking at the Islamic cultures as a threat to their own nation.
Well,
it's every nation.
Yeah, you brought it up. Let's talk about the Crusades. The Crusades were an answer to 400 years of Muslim aggression.
Right.
And when we talk about, this is interesting too. Well, hold on, let me write this down. Dracula. We'll get there. So when
we're going to get into vampires now.
when you talk about it, the Muslims had pushed and pushed and pushed, came through the Holy Land, took the Holy Land, moved into.
They took all of North Africa. They crossed over into Spain.
Yeah,
I mean, Europe was that close from being conquered.
So what happened? The kings are like, "All right, boys, we gotta go get the Pope." Yep. we got to ride down there and do something. So then, now, It was kind of a take no hostages deal. Some of the Jews got in the way, and like they went through there and just hammered everybody, and just brought it back to, in the name of quote unquote Christendom, right? I mean, they took no prisoners and beat them back. That it took 1,000 years for them to get back where they're like, hey, we might control. But it's the same slow progression that happened. But that's the thing with Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Dracul, right?
Right.
He was not a Muslim. It was Muslims that kept pushing into his land. History has smeared him, from my understanding, and I'm no historian, but what did he do? Every time they would come in, he'd cut off the heads of the Muslims and he would impale them and put them on the borders of his country.
Right.
It's any Muslim that comes here, and I'm not calling for us to do that. I don't want this to be, but that's how Dracula started. Is he was fighting back it was during the Crusade period of, hey, if you come here and you won't assimilate to my land, this is what happens to you. So that's where the legend of Dracula. Now, I don't know if he was out there dipping bread and blood. I know that's the common lore, but I don't think that
it
really
was
happened.
just because he was particularly bloodthirsty when it came to fight. Because where he was from was such a little place, and it was a crossroads into Europe.
Right.
And the Muslim invasion was coming right through there.
And so
he fought them to the max.
Yeah.
Let's say that. And as bloodthirsty as you made it sound, that's okay. But that's what it took to stop him.
And I think I was kind with how bloodthirsty he really was.
He was pretty brutal.
Was vicious.
Yeah.
But that's where you get the story of Dracula. That's where it comes from. But it's all tied to the Crusades, the Muslim Crusades, and the counter Crusades of the Christians, which is now, and once again, I'm not calling for a new crusade, but I'm calling for us to stand up and say, hey, this is our culture. We have to stand for our culture.
So we have Trumpula now, right?
That's exactly right. That's funny.
But you're right. It's a clash of cultures, and it is now rising up into the public consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
These people do not believe it like you do.
No.
They do not represent a culture like you do.
Well,
they're looking to supplant you, and that is what the pushback is.
Well, let's stick with claiming our culture. Okay. This is from redux.info, REDUXX.info. Exclusive. Pro-pedophile map activist publicly campaigning in Seattle. Redux has learned that a trans-identified male and radical queer activist residing in Seattle, Washington, has been publicly advocating for pedophilic relationships with children while organizing in-person events, meetup events. Yeah. The farther we get from Jesus, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
You can't, I remember when the whole gay marriage thing came up. And look, I've got gay friends. If you're a consenting adult, I don't care what you do as long as it doesn't affect me. That's the libertarian in me. You can go do what you want to do. Don't make my church do it. Don't make my baker bake you a cake. I mean, go do what you want to do. But I remember saying, here's the problem. Once you pop this cap, people are going to be marrying dogs. And I remember somebody saying to me, gay people don't like dogs. I'm like, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is just where we're going. And so now we have, and look, am I saying, and look, there's a lot of gays that are saying, whoa, this has gone too far.
Some of them, yes. I mean, but
no, there's a good majority of them that's like, hey, I'm not for this weird stuff.
I mean, you're pointing out over there in the far west, north coast, areas, Portland and Seattle and those places. All you got to do is look in Congress and see that the same thing.
Look at these Epstein files.
You mentioned the Epstein files. They don't care. They only use that as a way to hurt Republicans, they thought. Yeah. Actually, it's blackfiring on them. But, they didn't care anything about the 300,000 children that Biden administration lost. No. They vote and block against every piece of legislation that comes out to protect children, to protect women. and they don't care. It's all political games. They don't care who and I'm talking to Democrats, they don't care who they get in bed with.
Right.
Whether it's Palestine, the Palestinian cause.
These people will kill them once they get power too.
Absolutely. They're out there squeaking about, our armada off the coast of Iran. Iran is an international terrorist organization, nation state.
And he's doing everything he can to give Iran the way out of this.
Yes, he is. But they're not going to take it.
No.
Because they're crazy and they're radicals.
Yeah.
And they're going to push him and he's going to do it. But the Democrats are going to go say, see, looky here. They don't care about America anymore. Mm. They hate our country. They hate everything but their own power.
Yeah.
They would take us down. Like you said, they're so far away from Jesus now. The Democratic Party is a satanic cult as far as I'm concerned. Oh. And I'll just say it right up front. Okay. If Democrats would argue and debate things and come on one side or the other, or show some common decency on some of this legislations out there, but no, they're in lockstep up and down the line. You can't find more than one or two.
For the brand.
They do, and it's like, and the brand is bad.
Yeah.
And that is part of the issue that we got, and that's why we're running.
Yeah, that's why we're running, and half the Republicans are with them. All right, let's talk about what's going on in Mexico. We've hinted around Mexico. We've got Puerto Vallarta that is under attack. The U.S. government, I think, at some point over the weekend, put out an alert that citizens need to try to get to the embassy if they're there. Many videos coming out from people trapped in hotel rooms, fires, gunfights. This article,
I saw footage of cartel members attacking the Guadalajara airport.
Yeah,
people are like running. Some people are dragging their luggage. It's like, are you kidding me? Drop it, run.
Yeah. Well, and this is on. You can go to Mexican News Daily, where I've gotten a few articles from MexicanNewsDaily.com, and this is what happens. So, our government. There's so many ways to look at this. Our CIA let the Mexican military know where the number one drug dealer, the number one cartel guy was. Mm-hmm. They went and got him.
Yep.
And I would guess we had some contractors with them, from what I've read, that it wasn't just the Mexicans.
I heard there was some military liaisons there.
Yeah, and so here's what I've always said, not always, but for the last few years anyway. If we want to stop the flow of drugs, if we want to stop the flow of illegals, Mexico can do it all. We just tell them, and it's looking more like we're going to have to do this, but we just tell them, hey, we're going to shut the border. We're going to take Puerto Vallarta. We're going to take Cancun. We're going to take Cozumel. We'll annex them, make them U.S. territories. Then we'll napalm all your weed fields and all your cocaine fields. And then what are you going to do? We'll blow up your oil wells and you'll go back to the third world, because they're barely second world.
Well, I don't know if I would exactly put it in those terms. But here's the deal.
That would stop it.
People are saying it's all Trump's fault. Well, this might be a case where they might be right, because Trump said you're killing Americans. The cartels are killing Americans. They are a drain on our country. They are a national security threat. So what does he start doing? He starts popping off these boats these drug boats in the water and killing people and saying, hey, you cannot bring drugs in the United States. Then he goes and takes Maduro straight out of the Capitol, right out of his residence, and brings him to the U.S. for trial.
Say 20 guys killed 200 or something like that.
Yeah,
something crazy.
It is. So now people are saying, well, we're taking him serious. I know.
Like he'll come into a head of a state. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, the U.S. government has been telling Mexico, you have to clean up your cartels.
Yeah.
And the Mexican government has been doing some work on cartels, but they've been doing what they've actually been doing is taking out the cartel opposition to the main cartel in Mexico, who is in everything. They're in all 50 states. This is a huge transnational criminal organization.
And a lot of times, we're not supposed to live in a spirit of fear. And so I do my best to speak boldly, speak the truth as commanded. I have at times worried about talking about the cartel because of where we are and because of where the cartel comes right through here pushing drugs.
Yeah.
And we know that to be true. I mean, that's real. Not that I've ever had a run-in or anything like that, because I have not. But they're coming right through where we are, and they're going right to whoever's listening to this. And that's real life.
Well, and you should always watch your back, okay? Let me just say that.
Yeah.
But
we ride hot around here.
But I've been a Texas border volunteer for 14 years. I've sat out in the Texas brush of South Texas, watching for drugs and human trafficking coming across our border, and special interest aliens, and working with Border Patrol. My last 3 months of federal service for NASA was, was as a federal volunteer in a Border Patrol processing center down in McAllen, Texas. I know the issues we got down there. Brandon Darby, who is also the editor of Breitbart, Texas, he took me and several other grassroots leaders on a tour of the Texas-Mexican border. And we went out there at like 2 a.m, looking at the drug trails that they used. We went into communities that were total under cartel things. We went out on the Rio Grande and saw the spotters standing up in the bluffs, with their little cell phones talking to the cartels and saying who's out there and who's not. We also went there and had, while we were there in the city on the Texas side, we had cartel people following us around.
Yeah.
I mean, we had security. I had my own security. And we were kind of worried about what they might do. But they drove around in a little red pickup truck, keeping eyes on us.
Anytime you're here, I know there's probably 2 guns in the studio.
Yeah, at least. yeah. But, it's one of those things where, they're a real threat. They've always been a real threat.
Yeah.
And as long as they would keep their activities at a certain level,
everybody's okay with it.
People would turn the other way because fear, for one thing, corruption is another. It's like most southern Texas sheriffs, they don't resign. They don't get booted out of office. They go to jail.
Right.
And that's a true thing. The common thing at the Texas-Mexican border is, silver or lead. You take the silver or you get the lead.
Well, that's funny. One of my buddies has a story about one of his college friends that had a ranch down on the border, and they would come and the gate would be open, and then the gate would be open and the gate would be open. So they closed. So finally they put a lock on it. So they came back one night and there were 4 guys standing there with machine guns. So, hey, y'all aren't going to lock this gate anymore. They said, yes, sir.
Yeah.
We won't be locking the gate right now. Now, that's real life for Texans down in the south border.
And, they're not allowed to defend themselves. They're not allowed to protect their properties. We hear about, Second Amendment rights in America, how land ownership is sacred in Texas. These ranchers are not even allowed to protect their own lands.
Got to let them walk through. And they destroy things, especially where there's a lot of people. I mean, you've seen it more than I have. Yeah. But they're destroying even if you've got a well where your water's coming. I mean, if you've got a watering station, your animals are just screwed.
Oh, I've seen countless of what they do is they break off the floats.
Yep.
So that would stop the water flow once it gets filled. So it just keeps overflowing because they don't want the scummy water on the top. They want fresher water.
Right.
So they break and damage that. They knock down the fences, the barbed wire fences and such. That used to be employment for high school students.
Right.
That would go and work with the ranchers and put up fencing, that would get damaged by trees or cows or whatever. Now it's just so widespread, the ranchers would put ladders.
They could come over?
They would build ladders over their fences so that they would not crush down their fences. And unfortunately, most of the time, they wouldn't use the ladders because they think it's a trap,
right.
and they break down the fence anyway.
Right.
They'd crawl under it, You know, I've seen tons of crawls where illegals have come under fences and such. I've seen the rape trees with the underwear hanging in the trees of them raping the women. And it's just,
And that's why this is important.
yeah.
Because, yes, it's about the drugs, but it's 300,000 kids were lost in the Biden administration. There's as many kids. And so that's why what's going on in Mexico right now is important, because we have to. This affects us. This, and good for the Mexican government. And you had an interesting point. The Mexican government got between a rock and a hard place. Okay, either we're going to play with Trump or we're not. And if we don't, there's a chance he lands on our palace and takes us.
Yeah.
Or if we do, there's a chance that the cartel stands up and does what they're doing, which is it's all out bloodshed right now. And like I said,
Well, here's what I say. The Mexicans were given a choice. The government says either you go handle your problem or we're going to handle it for you. You're going to have the U.S. military come and basically take out all these cartel hardpoints. And trust me, we know where they are.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that unilaterally. And it's going to be bad for you politically and every which way. Or you can start doing it yourself, and we'll back your play. And I think that's what's going on right now. I don't know how far the cartels want to take this, whether they just want to make a show of force and then stop, or just say, you know what, we're going to put our own government in place.
which is what I think they'll do.
And so that... And that's
Because let's don't act like the cartel doesn't already have their own government. Because I have friends and acquaintances that go into Mexico quite often for hunting trips or fishing trips or whatever. Because there's good hunting and fishing down there. And
so you say.
hey man, and there is. And so, but it's not uncommon you cross the border, then you might get 5 or 10 minutes inside the border, and then you get stopped by somebody, and you slide them $200 or $300. Hey, here's where I'm going. Okay, they write your stuff down. Then they get on the radio. Then the next guy you pass just gives you a wave, and you roll on. I don't know anyone who's never not paid that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happens if you. I'm pretty sure they don't force you to at the first one. But if you get to the second one you haven't paid, I imagine that's a problem.
Yeah.
But that's just part of what you prepare for if you're going down there is, hey, I need to have this extra money to grease the palms, not at the border.
Yeah, right.
Once I get inside the border. And then you're safe.
Well,
As much as you can be safe, right?
Mexico is a good example of how gun control works.
Yeah.
Okay? Cartels own all the guns and they control all the guns.
Yep.
And the people don't.
Yep.
There was must have been 15 years ago maybe. There was a town that said, we've had it with the cartels. They're stealing our crops. They're coming in here, taking our profits. We're arming our citizens and we're going to fight them.
Yeah.
And they were ready to do it. They had weapons. The government came and confiscated every weapon in the town. It said, It's illegal in Mexico. You cannot own a weapon. Yet the cartels are driving around in armored vehicles.
Right.
They're shooting down helicopters with surface-to-air missiles.
Isn't that crazy?
Because they've got unlimited money. They can buy whatever they want. And Lord knows they can get it from Afghanistan because we left a lot of our stuff there. Yeah. So that's where we're at. My thing is, if these cartels overstep and they take American hostages,
it's a problem.
Is a problem for them because Trump will not stand for that.
No, he can't.
Right. So things could get bad. Things could get bad over here. Like you said, we're a well-armed studio here. And when I was in the legislature, we all open carried in Brent Money's office.
Yeah.
Because
you should.
You should. You don't know. Cops aren't there to protect you. They're there to get justice afterwards.
Right.
And to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I live way out in west end of Bowie County, and a cop is usually about 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
That does me no good if I need one.
My neighbor's across the street, but I couldn't be to his house and get to him before somebody got in.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works. Well, all right, Dale, we've had a far-reaching conversation.
Yes, we have.
And I always enjoy it. Last week of early voting here in Texas.
Right. I think early voting ends on Friday.
And then next week, next Tuesday's March 3rd, it's the day.
Thank God. I'm so ready for the campaigning to be over and the real work to begin.
I'm ready to get to the real work myself.
Absolutely.
Okay, Dale, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Zach.
All right, thanks, everybody. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today.
Amen.